Okay, here we go.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
We're live. Okay, well, hello. We are so grateful that you guys have decided to come and join us for this kissing clinic with Bethany Turner and Leslie DeVooght and me, editor of Spark, Kimberly Duffy. So we're just kind of going to jump into it and wait for some questions, but we're going to talk about kissing. And it's going to be super relaxed. We don't really have a whole lot of structure to the evening, but we hope that we are able to help you in some way, like a really sparky kissing scene. I'm going to use all the sparks I can because I am a nerd like that. So I think Leslie kind of has the whole overview of the evening. I don't know what's going on, so I'll hand it over to her.
Hey, before we start, I just want to introduce themselves really quick. I'm Leslie DeVooght. I'm the production manager for Spark, and I am in this interview. I'm kind of a pre-published girl, but except for that, I am published in Flash Fiction and Writers. What was that? The Writer's Digest anthology and a Spark, of course. And so hopefully that will be a soon thing that will be in the past. Go ahead, Kim or Bethany.
I'm Bethany Turner. I'm Bethany Turner, and I write romantic comedy, and I have 3 titles out so far. My next one is called Plot Twist, and it will release from Thomas Nelson in June.
Yay!
Sounds super cute too. I'm Kimberly Duffy, editor of Spark. Like I said, I write historical women's fiction, but there's always a lot of great kissing scenes in my books because I like practicing them on my husband. I have 2 books out, A Mosaic of Wings and Tapestry of Light.
Yes, great. Okay, so yeah, and I write rom-com too, so that, anyway, I didn't say that. Okay, so the first kind of question we have, I feel like my screen, I need to get myself situated, is whose POV? So for anybody that doesn't know what POV means, that's a person
point of view.
Point of view. This is very late for Leslie. She's normally in bed by now.
It is like, I just saw myself, I'm like, why can't we do these things at 6 a.m.? I'm all on at 6 a.m. Okay. Point of view. So the person that's like thinking, whose POV should a kiss be in? I'm going to do this. Okay, there.
I think it needs to be in the POV of whoever it's a bigger moment for. And I mean, that can mean lots of different things. And I think the one exception to that is if you almost need it to be a red herring of not being in, you need to not know what the other person is thinking because that's going to come around later or something. But I don't think there's an absolute to that other than it's just got to be because every kiss, I'm a big believer that every kiss needs to completely change the direction of your character's trajectory, one way or another, whether emotionally or circumstantially or whatever. Not every kiss. I mean, sometimes you just kiss to kiss, but it's like really you need to have those moments. And so, yeah, it's got to come down to what does the story dictate?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I love when a kissing scene is long enough to be in both POVs. So I have a kissing scene that nobody has read yet because it's not a book that's been published that starts in the heroine's point of view, and then it switches to the next chapter and it's the male's point of view. And it's
love that.
Wonderful because you get in both of their heads and you have that different perspective of the kiss. So I really like that. But yeah, I agree. I think whoever it's the most impactful for, that's the scene. That's the point of view it should be in.
Yeah, somebody, I don't remember who I saw this or heard this, was like, whoever is got the most to lose or risk, like whoever's risking the most in that moment is a good person to have the kiss POV because they have lots of thoughts about it.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of switching too.
Or whoever feels the most, like if it shocks one of the characters, then maybe put it in their POV,
See, and that in my latest book, that was kind of the case where it very much took the character completely off guard. There's no, and it was hers, it was the heroine's. There's no way I could have put it in the hero's because he knew sooner that it was coming. I didn't want the reader to know before she did. It was like, it is so unexpected and has to come from nowhere. So again, it's all about just what does that story need it to be?
Mm-hmm. For sure. And I know I sent y'all like a list of questions, but as we kind of talked about that, I was thinking as I was typing the questions and thinking, that the characters, one of the things we came up with is how do you personalize kisses for different characters?
Mm-hmm. I mean, for me, I think that pretty much comes down to, I mean, there's so many ways. There's so many ways because it can be the who's in control. That's a very personal thing. And I mean, that reveals so much more than just, hey, who decided to kiss who? It's not that. It's what's at the core of this, who's taking control of this moment and what are all the underlying things. So that hugely personalizes it. I think that the hesitation or lack thereof personalizes it. Definitely the character traits that go into it, such as shyness or boldness or playfulness or whatever. So yeah, there's a million ways, I think.
Mm-hmm. And then you can bring in other senses. So if your character's kissing someone with like a mustache or a beard, like I love kissing guys with beards. Like I kiss only one guy with beards, but in my books, I love to write for the kissing guys with beards because it adds a sensory detail. That's wonderful. And then, like, just remember when you're writing a kiss that those sensory details can be very personal.
Yeah, that's funny that you said it because I was thinking as you were saying sensory details. I was like, oh yeah, who's that guy in one of my books that I wrote? And he's a chef, and his name is Luca De Rosa. Anyways, it's kind of funny. He's kind of different, but the girl constantly is smelling all of his Italian spices that he cooks with when they're close together. And obviously, if she's kissing him, then yes, she smells them.
Indeed.
Very strong smelling. No, and that was also so it's funny, I had to write a book about a preacher, and he like really wanted everything to be just like this. He was just like really perfect and wanted things to be super special when he kissed this girl. And I think that kind of changed it to then like a helicopter pilot that was like really crass and whatever. They do things differently. So even the setting can change because the character, might choose, especially like you were saying, Bethany, like that he knew what he was going to do. So that's where you end up having that, especially the first kiss, not if there's more.
Yeah, it's hard to do that every time, I guess. Yeah, there are always more. I'm with you, Kim.
Always more.
If there, what's this if? What?
I don't get these books with one kiss. What?
I know. I have to. Here's my confession to you guys. My last book, it was awful. My first draft was awful, and I didn't end up having the first kiss until the last page, and I knew it was horrible. But it's like I hated these characters so much. I was like, I'm not going to do that to them. Which is where I will just say thank the Lord above for great editors, because it did not end up that way, I promise you. But it was like, what? This is wrong. It felt like I was betraying everything I believed in by not having a kiss till the last page. So, yeah.
No, I think that because of like Hallmark movies, they don't have a kiss generally till the end. And so I know that when I wrote my first book, I did that. And then I like learned a whole bunch. I was like, oh, I got to stick some more kisses in.
More than one.
And some of those movies don't even have a kiss at all. I remember watching a Christmas movie and there was and you kept waiting and waiting. And like, they never kissed. They danced at the end. Like they did a little slow dance. And then I went online and I was like, Googling it. I was not the only one. And evidently the actor didn't want to kiss anyone who wasn't his wife, which is a nice sentiment, but then don't act. Like,
exactly.
Sorry, for the wrong profession, I guess.
And I was going to say, like, Kirk Cameron felt that way and had his wife come in and film the scene in the silhouette. It's like, there are ways around that. You just, you chickened out.
I felt cheated. I did. I'm still angry. This is like 5 years ago. I'm still mad.
You'll never get over it. It's okay.
I won't.
Okay, so moving on. So what do you think is the most important elements of a kiss?
I feel like there are emotional answers to that and physical answers to that. I'll start with the physical because, why not? I think it's, for me, and just the way I like to write them, it comes down to hands. Where are the hands and what are they doing?
Yeah.
That's
They're
huge.
important. Yeah.
They are hugely important. It's like, I mean, think about if we think about our great movie kisses that we love, or great book kisses, but the visual of a movie kiss, it's like, it's as much, we're not really watching their lips. We're watching, where are his hands? Are they in her hair?
Mhm.
Are they on her face? Are they around her waist? That's what we're actually looking for more often than not. And it's like, is it a swoop? Is it I mean, there's so many different things. So the hands, I actually get much more attention than the lips in kissing scenes for me.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And twirling the back of, the hair at the nape of the neck. Like, there's things you can write in there that are sensual without being sleazy, and that just make you warm and fuzzy inside.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that warm and fuzzy is a different thing that people don't always like. You get all the tingles and the shivers and whatever, but sometimes it's just so sweet and loving, especially in that loving moment. And actually, we did have one question that Karen Tyner put out there, asking, kind of goes with the same thing, avoiding cliche riddled passages, so that you're not just saying those same words that you use. And I think when you focus on something other than just the mouth or whatever, you get more of that. Yeah, I remember I said something about thumb brushing at whatever across the lips, and our friend Lindsay was like, "Oh, that's my favorite thing, the thumb brushing across the lips." Okay,
it's a good one.
Okay, so we said that was physical. So what about the emotional?
For me, it's really about what changes because of it. Where I don't think that, especially a first kiss, but really any big impactful kiss in a book, I don't think that the characters should be in the same place when they start the kiss as they are when it ends. Something has to change. Are the feelings deeper? Are they questioning things? Are they guilty? Are they regretting? Are they just wanting to go kiss again? Whatever it is, something has changed. And I really think that's the biggest emotional aspect of it for me. Bless you.
I even think about that. Yeah. I even think about that in like real life. Like, and I think back to your very first ever kiss. Like, your life kind of changed, and there was no going back.
Right.
So the hands in my first kiss, that's what ended it.
Wow.
The hands were very important, and they were not where they should have been. So that kiss ended a relationship.
So there was a change.
So there you go. The emotional and the physical all together right there. Yeah.
Love it.
I keep harping on this because I think it's so important. But I really love with kisses, I really love the sensory details. So I love when an author brings all of those, like not just the way it feels when his lips are on hers, or where, even like what he's touching or his thumb stroking her sides, but like what else is she experiencing, or what else is he experiencing? Like what does her dress feel like? What does her hair feel like? What does she smell like? All these, like, what, like, are there like crickets in the trees? Like all of these sensory details just make it more than just a kiss. So I think that's super important, especially if you're writing flash fiction, with just a few place sensory details, you can make it a bigger scene than just a kiss.
Yeah. On that note, Kim, I think I didn't really think this is one of our questions, but in my very first flash fiction piece that was published, Kim edited it and had a kiss in it. And she was like, you have to slow down. You have to slow down the words and add more sensory details. I thought that, adding the details, but it was like, I can understand adding details, but people don't know what that means necessarily. When you say slow it down, that to me was like, oh, okay, I understand what slow it down meant. Mm-hmm. And in flash fiction, you're thinking, wait, I don't want to slow it down. I don't have any space. I'm out of words. But if the whole point is like, I would say in flash fiction, if you're writing a first kiss, that's your whole story. So the kiss needs to be really good.
So take words from somewhere else and get rid of them, and then expand the kiss. If you take anything away from this today, that's the most important thing.
Absolutely. Yes, definitely. Okay, so actually it's funny because our next question was, in clean romance. So most of us are writing clean romance, and Spark is definitely from a Christian worldview. Please watch the hands. And so, how do you write physical and emotional kisses well? I will say that we do love to get some married people's stories. It's hard to write. I actually just read a proposal story, and that was even hard to write because there's not as much conflict. But we have a really great bowling alley story that one of our former authors wrote, and it's married people, and it's very steamy.
Love it.
But how do you worry about keeping it clean? How do you keep it clean and then also write it well?
So I in my last book, I wrote a very chaste kiss, and my editor was like, yeah, I feel like you're holding back, so give me more. So I mean, obviously we at Spark write and publish from a Christian worldview. So, but I feel like, I mean, it's normal to have sexual tension when you're with someone you are attracted to. So I don't think you need to make that go away. Like, that's okay, but you don't have to be dirty about it, and it's okay to have those feelings and stuff. Just let's keep things PG. That's all. But I mean, it's hard, I think, sometimes to have those really intense feelings and still keep it something that, like, my 16-year-old, I'm okay with her reading. My 16-year-old's on here telling me, like, she's giving everybody kissing scene advice on the comments. It's super cute. But we see so many, he kissed her, and then that's where it ends. So just give us more. I think more than anything, sometimes just give us more.
Yeah, I think that, writing the clean, I don't think it's all that challenging. And that's not to say I got it figured out. It's not that. It's just once you kind of figure out all the possibilities that you can, it's like you're a better writer than you think you are more often than not. And, and people want to spend time with these characters more than you think they do. And so it's just kind of a matter of embracing a few of those things, because I think two of the biggest things, well, three, because I will include hands. I think hands are still key to writing a clean kissing scene. A guy's hand in a girl's hair will never not be sexy if done right. But I think two other things that come to mind for me are breath. What's happening with their breath? Is because there's so much you can do with breath. It's like, are you close enough to feel their breath? Which, again, when done properly, that gives such a sense of intimacy without saying anything unclean or even borderline, so that sort of thing. But also, what is the character's breath doing? Is it a little bit staggered? Because, like you said, that attraction is there, that, and then that leads me to, I think, one of the biggest tools in the toolbox for writing a clean kissing scene is anticipation. If you get that reader in the palm of your hand before the kiss ever happens, it doesn't need to be anything other than clean. Because there's so much you can do with it without ever crossing any lines. You don't need to see it all happening. It's like you're feeling it with them, and it's exciting.
Yeah, I was I didn't understand how the comments worked on the StreamYard until just now. Love that Sherry says it's too late in the evening for me. That's so true. But I just saw Sharon Koff's message too, and she said it's my pet peeve when the kiss isn't organic, whether it's too late or too soon. It can't feel forced. And I think that's kind of what we're talking about. Like, you get to those characters and you know it, and you have that anticipation because they are thinking about it at least. So I thought that was good. That's funny that she says, what did she say? Like, it's pushed in there because it's romance or kept at bay for some stupid reason. I think that that can also be interesting, which is actually one of our coming up questions. Like, how do you write an almost kiss without, and I'm going to say with Sharon thing, without having some stupid reason, like she said, like a phone call.
Yeah.
So I think, like, with the almost kiss, you can use to stop it. If you're getting ready to write a kiss and you don't want that kiss to happen, like you want to build that anticipation, you know. I mean, a lot of times all you have to do is just have the character respond with fear or nerves or
Bingo.
You know? So yeah, you don't really need a stupid reason. You just need one of them to say, "Oh, I don't know if I'm ready for this," and like turn away, you know.
Mm-hmm. Or questioning whether or not this other person's where you are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like we're seeing their thoughts. Doesn't mean they're seeing each other's. And you know, it's like, and that is it, especially a first kiss. I mean, if you think in real life, it's like, that's a huge leap to kiss someone for the first time, not knowing if they're thinking the same thing you are. And you're looking for the signs and you're looking for the cues and all these things. And so, I mean, use that. You can use that huge ways of, because if you have any doubt and you know, if you think there's a pretty good chance this person isn't where I am, you're not going to go through with it. So you can still have all those thoughts and have the almost kiss. And then that's the fun of dealing with it from the other side at a different time, almost your red herring again of either actually from their POV or just unlocking their thoughts a little bit of what was actually going through their mind. You know, so there's tons of potential there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I was watching a TV show today, and there was an almost kiss. That's made me think about this. And the woman she stops and she's like, "Oh, I don't have any of my research for this this article she's writing." And I'm like, "What?" It's like, that's what you were thinking about? You were thinking about that article? I was like, okay.
No, thank you.
I was like, that I'm not buying that.
No.
But and then
you know who did this really well? I don't know, Bethany. I know Leslie's watched it, but if you've watched New Girl,
yeah,
one of my favorite shows. You know, and there's so much tension. Like they are attracted to one another, right? And they're so cute together. You're just the whole time you're like, oh, get together. And there's that almost kiss, and you're like, oh man, you just want to like watch all the rest of them.
Yeah, and that's such a great example of another. I mean, if it's friendship and you're worried about losing that or ruining what is there, I mean, that's another great thing to cling to of, you know, if you work together, if you have, you know, there's always things that you're weighing your risks, and that gives you a great way to make an almost kiss.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Okay, let's see. I'm sorry. Okay, so who do we know that writes good kissing scenes besides us?
Well, clearly us. No. I think Sarah Monzon writes really great kisses. I don't know if you guys have read her stuff. And another one that came to mind immediately is Jessica Kate. Of course, I read a lot of rom-coms, so that's my go-to. I can think of many more, but those are the two off the top of my head.
I think you get a little bit more of kissing, obviously, I think in the contemporary, you know, area, because it would be kind of unheard of to be running around kissing and a lot of historic, especially certain time.
We make them do it anyway. No, Ellie said Melanie Dickerson, and Jen said Lynn Austin. They both write really good kissing scenes. So does Pepper Basham. She writes amazing kissing scenes. And in a different vein,
move a lot in her scenes.
What?
Hands move a lot in Pepper scenes.
Yeah, there are some handsy people in Pepper scenes. And then Joanna Politano, who writes historical fiction, she writes kissing scenes that are so like emotionally charged. Like they're not super physical, but there's just so much buildup. And I just finished reading an arc. It's The Midnight Dance. It's not out yet, but there is a kissing scene in that book that I read like 16 times because it is so good. So good.
Wow.
Who's a male author who writes?
Yeah, I was going to think. Well, I mean, I can think of some, but they're not not Christian. Well, you know, Charles Martin. I'm trying to think about his kissing scenes, but a lot of times they don't kiss. They just. I'm trying to think. But I have to think about that.
Yeah,
Gilbert Morris. Question. I haven't read a Gilbert Morris book in 2 decades. Do you guys remember Gilbert Morris books? Are they good kissing scenes? I don't.
I've actually never read any Gilbert Morris.
They're from like the 90s, like the books I read. I don't know. Were there any good kissing scenes in the 90s? Fantasy Rivers had one or two. I don't remember Gilbert Morris books. I think, I'm glad to see some male authors write some good kissing scenes. I think sometimes male authors, they're just about the kissing. So I know my husband is thinking about like sensory details when he's kissing me. So
right. That actually is a good point though. Like if you're going to write a kiss in the male POV, you really have to like talk to a guy, because I mean, how much do you think they're actually thinking? So, like they're like, this is the movie. Yes. That was the goal. I mean, I'm not trying to be like whatever sexist. I guess that is sexist. I'm sorry, but I had a male agent helping me with our reading, considering, well, he offered me, but we were talking about this book, about this contract, and he was helping me with the first page, and I didn't know this kind of thing you're not supposed to do at the time. I mean, I guess you can do it, it's fine, but I'd written the first scene in the male POV. And he was like, oh, think like a guy. Like, he's looking at her, like, because this girl's in the bathing suit. He's looking at her, like, body. Like, you got to, like, and how's he feeling about that? And I'm like, I don't know. How are you feeling about that? So I think I don't think that's like,
yeah.
I like to write in a male POV for a kiss sometimes, too. So I think the way to know that is to ask. So.
And that would be an interesting contrast to write, like, if you do have a kissing scene long enough to have both POVs, write it in the female and the male. Like, even if even if it's only in one person's point of view, write it in both point of views. Yeah. And then you have like really great perspective to put in that scene.
Yeah.
And that's also something to do is, if you have a significant other, practice on your spouse.
Amen.
It helps. My husband likes this. But no, I mean, it's amazing when your kid, like actually kissing someone, it's amazing the things you notice and you're like, oh, that's an amazing little thing I'm going to put in here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's really good. Sorry. I was going to say it's really good to do that also after it's been written, like to act, because sometimes it's like, oh, that is so awkward, the way you had your arm or whatever. Yeah. So yeah. It's a good.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Somebody told me once that they were like, wait, with their husband, they're like, come here, let me see if this actually is possible. Mm-hmm. Like, if you can actually help, your hands can be whatever. And so you're not like trying to like play what's a twister, like in the kiss scene.
Although maybe.
Well, maybe.
The little twister's not called for.
Maybe we'll do board games for an upcoming theme. That would be fun.
That would be fun.
That's a good idea. I'm ready to know. We're always trying to cook with me.
Matthew says that's why he's listening to this, because he wants to learn more about how to write a kissing scene as a male. I think that's smart.
Awesome.
Listen to us, Matthew.
Yeah.
Learn from us.
Yeah, I think the important thing there, it really is like having more than just the physical. And we've talked about that a little bit already, is really including emotional parts, which I do think men have emotional parts to when they're kissing. But I in the last book I wrote, I remember like the girls, one of her friends said, or she even might think in her head, if I'm thinking about all of these things, then maybe this kiss, she's kissing the wrong guy. Maybe this kiss isn't so great. Maybe I'm like not getting it right. And I'm like, because I mean, if you're thinking about like the grocery list, perhaps things are not emotionally. So
not a good sign. Yeah.
Not a good sign.
Well, unless you've been married for 21 years and you're
then it happens.
Well, then, yeah. I mean,
you got a lot to do.
Okay. So we've kind of touched on this a little bit, but a good moment in a story for a kiss. And I would actually add to this. So let's talk full length kind of first, and then maybe flash fiction. But because like in a full length novel, somebody even commented earlier that they read a book and like in the first chapter there was the kiss, and then they were like, I'm done with this book. So when is a good time in the novel to put in a kiss? What about length?
I was looking through my books and like I marked my kisses.
Oh my God.
So that I'd have them for easy reference as I was researching kisses. But I realized, and I didn't realize this till I was looking at it strategically from this view, I've done it different in every book because I think subconsciously at the time, I'm not wanting to just fall into the rut of always doing the same thing. So as such, it's like every book, it's looked so different. So there have been pretty early but then had to back off because it was way too early. Then there's been, I mean, I have one that's kind of at the end of a relationship. So there's just kind of almost a goodbye kiss is actually the first kiss. And then the rest of the book is getting back together and building towards. And then, then there was one that's just smack dab in the middle is complete surprise. And so it's just, I think just kind of like with whose POV should it be in, I don't think there's a right answer to that. I think it's what the story calls for.
Yeah, I agree. I think it just depends on the story.
Yeah, definitely. Before we go to flash fiction, Barbara has asked if Bethany can read us one of your kissing scenes since you've got them marked for us.
Well, sure. If we want to do that, I'd be happy to. I'll read one from Hadley Beckett's Next Dish. This one's pretty short. This is my one that came smack dab in the middle, our first one here. And I will just tell a little bit of the backstory, just so you know, is that, so this was the book that the first draft, the kiss was at the end, and that was not going to fly. And so as I was doing my rewrite, I knew I was at the point that I needed to have them kiss. Something had to happen. So I was like, fine, I'm just going to write the kiss. I don't know how they get to it. It doesn't make sense, but I'm going to make it happen. And then I'll deal with the fallout later. It ended up being my favorite kiss in the book, and it stayed. And it is completely unexpected. So yeah. So, okay. I feel like I have to tell a little bit of the story. Sorry. I wasn't prepared to do this. So they are rival chefs, on a cooking show. And they are starting to become friends as they're working together, even though there was a huge, horrible fallout and they did not like each other and bad news. But they're starting to kind of become friends. But then like the moment the camera is on, Max, my hero, turns into a jerk again. And Hadley is like, what is up with you every time? So she's furious at him and he shows up at her door. So he's texting her and says, and can we talk? And she said, no, I just didn't have it in me to face a chat with sexy texty Max. I threw the pillow across the room and sat up, taking my phone with me. I don't think we have anything to talk about. I studied my phone, awaiting his reply, but it came in the form of a knock at my door. It was him. I just knew it was him. Are you at my door? Okay. And then she's like, nope. So I stormed to my front door and threw it open. What is your problem? Seriously, do you have some sort of texting alter ego? You don't get to be like that in the kitchen. And then like that, I raised my phone in the air and shook it and again waited for his reply. This time, it came in the form of 2 self-assured steps into my house, both of his hands cupped around my jawline, his fingers tangled in the hair at the nape of my neck, and his lips pressed against mine. There was no thought of protest, no breath left for words. There was only Max and his kiss, gentle but urgent, growing more urgent as we ignored the need to breathe in favor of something we needed even more desperately. He grasped a fist of my hair and pulled my face away from his, delicately so he didn't hurt me, but intensely as if his hands were capable of doing what his mouth was not, separating us just long enough to gasp for air. He panted. Hadley, shut up, I whimpered as my arms locked around his neck and pulled him back to me. So that was their first kiss.
That's a great kiss. I feel like I should tell my daughter to leave the room.
PG-13.
Yeah.
No, that's a great kiss.
It was a great kiss. And I think it really hit on so many things we've talked about, especially like making it longer, going all those details and all the hand stuff. So I think that was really good. That was a really great example. Thank you for that. I mean, and that's what
Thanks for asking, Barbara.
That's the book I haven't read, so I'm like, oh no. That's cool. So let's talk flash fiction for just a second on the same good moment for the kiss. So Kim, what have you seen?
I feel like in flash fiction, usually the kiss is at the end, just because the story is typically about that kiss. It's about them getting it. Now, this is different if you're writing about a relationship that's already established, right? But for the most part, most of the stories we see, it's the couple, that moment is that first kiss. And so they're usually at the end because that's the conflict, is will they or won't they? But again, I think it just depends on the story. So if you have, So for instance, I wrote a story about a married couple, an older married couple, and the kiss was very sweet and tender, and it was in the middle of the story. Because the story wasn't about that kiss. The story wasn't about whether or not they were together. They were already together. So I really do think it's the same with a book. It just depends on the story. But if you're writing a will they, won't they, then typically that comes at the end.
Yeah. I like that you said that too, that like you can still have a kind of romance and kissing, even if it's not the main feature of the story, that it's just part of it.
Listen, I want a kiss in every one of these stories. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I might very well reject a story if there's not a kiss in it. Or I might just say, put a kiss in it. Okay. And we'll take it. But yeah, I want a kiss. Even if it's a sweet kiss, I want a kiss.
Yeah.
Matthew. Yeah. Chef's kissing would make smells important. I think of garlic.
Yeah. Maybe olive oil. That's what my girl always thought when she was kissing her chef. Rosemary. She's never mind. I can't even remember all the things she says about it. It's not very clean. Okay. So I think we've really covered this. How do you make a kiss natural? Do you have any more tips on that?
Well, the only thing I would say to that, I mean, I think, yeah, we've pretty much said it all that I can think of on that, but I would add, sometimes it's not natural. And that's sometimes okay too. So like we were saying before, it's like sometimes first kisses are incredibly awkward. And yes, we want this romance and to be swept up in this first kiss and all that. I mean, that's what we want, so I'm not saying don't do that, but at the same time it doesn't have to be natural to be romantic.
Mm-hmm.
So I think outside the traditional Hallmark box in that regard too, of it's okay if it's a little awkward. That can be really romantic and actually kind of sexy in its own way.
Yeah. Like a clumsy cute kiss. I think it's adorable.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I wanted to say, I'm reading this book, Tidewater Bride, and which is wonderful. But earlier you were talking about like increasing the tension and not interrupting kisses, in a way that doesn't seem natural. And I want to say that Laura France in this book, the first almost kiss is so good because they're about to kiss and he says, I'm not going to kiss you if you don't know if you really want this. And it was so romantic.
That's good.
So romantic. And it just makes you love this guy so much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think women love a gentleman. I mean, that's like, what's the perfect moment? That's not just gonna just do it because, I got my kissing, like they love that kind of character that's thoughtful. They also like the other kind too, I think. But I was thinking about that when you were saying that about Bethany, about it might not be natural, like it might be slightly unnatural. I think that can come with setting too. Like, and it's going to be like, okay, obviously if you're under the moonlight with the stars and, the ocean waves, and I've written that kiss, I'm not like just my own, like whatever, but it can be totally different and maybe more fun and raise the conflict if it's in a different kind of setting where there's other things happening and other sensory things happening that really change it and make it. I don't know. I think it's, and maybe this is the comedy for me. I think it's just more fun.
I agree with that.
And when it's least expected, like if you don't see a kiss coming and then it happens, like I love that. I love that like element of surprise.
Yeah, that's good. So how do you raise romantic tension without a kiss? So this is really important for our flash fiction writers. If you're not going to write, and we do, okay, just as an aside, we don't want every story to be about the first kiss.
No,
we get 15 first kiss stories. Only like 2 are going to get picked. I'm just telling you. So the 2 best is best. Kim always says, pick something. If you thought of it, then everybody else has too. So think of something different. And it's the best advice that I think that, some of the best advice she's ever given me. Because my flash fiction first story that she accepted was supposed to be about sports, and mine was about croquet.
Yeah. And then what was no, and we had like 82 baseball stories.
Yeah.
But only one croquet. So of course I'm going to go with the croquet.
Uh-huh.
No, like what was the arrow? Like the arrow one? What was the story? What was the? Remember the one with the arrows, like the bullseye? What was the theme for that? Yeah.
Oh, that was the historic one.
I know, but there was a
Regency.
theme. I can't remember.
I don't know, but
anyway, that was different too. But no, we had when we did our vacation. There wasn't a kiss in that. Maybe I imagined one. Sometimes I'll do that if I'm left one a little more. But no, when we did our vacation, Kim, you wouldn't even.
I wanted them to waltz like 3 times, and you're like, they can't waltz but 1 time. That's not allowed. And I was like, what?
Well, it was Regency. They couldn't. Listen, we're going to be as historically accurate as possible. When we did our vacation theme, I had seriously, I'm not even kidding, 62 beach stories. Like, there's a whole world out there, people. So you better believe I picked the one story I got that was set in like a mountain, right? So yeah, definitely like think outside the box. That's just a little extra tidbit I'm going to give you.
Yeah, think outside the box. But I think if you're going to write a first kiss, then you better make it like super creative. Because my croquet story actually was a first kiss, but then they're playing croquet, and that's not like where you have. And I mean, the other story that before I was like on staff that she took was a first kiss. And they were making Waterford Crystal.
Yeah,
That's definitely not the same setting.
Wow.
So I think that's really an important. Be fun. It changes things up. It gives us some variety, and that's important for this magazine specifically. Okay, but how do you raise romantic tension without a kiss?
I think the same thing that Bethany was saying earlier. Hands are super important. So I think one of the most romantic things that anybody can do is like this part of the wrist, right?
Oh yeah.
Like if a guy like rubs that part of the wrist, like that raises the romantic tension right there. So there's certain parts, so which is a touch, is all you need to kind of move that story forward.
The hair, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right here behind me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do a diagram. And put little hearts where.
Yeah. And what are you, I mean, it's so obvious that it's like in the emotion thesaurus, but it's so true. Looking at lips is huge. I mean, that's just one of those, it's like when you can't take your eyes off of somebody's lips, doesn't matter if you kiss at that point, it's happening, So that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Ellie's comment's good, Kim. Maybe accidental touching. I always love them when they're walking and they brush the backs of each other's hands.
Like or their arms bump up against one another. Yeah.
That's a good one. I was thinking of something else, but Ellie's comment got me off track.
I need to get Ellie to write for us.
What was I thinking? I think you can have that sound with friendship too. Oh, I know. I was saying banter. Like they say things that mean a little bit more than what they're actually saying, and you're like, wait, what's that? Whoa, you can feel it ratcheting up, even if it's
Okay.
Yes.
I have to hold on. I have to pull down my large print edition of Hadley Beckett's Next Dish. Because we have joked so much about that. I mean, I'm so thrilled to have this large print edition. I don't mean to be snarky, but this character is like the top chef in the country, maybe in the world. And he always wears black. He wears nothing but black V-necks and black pants. And I'm like, there he is in his plaid shirt and his heart-shaped pizza. It has just been such an ongoing joke. So yes, she's right. Such tension will come from that.
Such tension. That's hilarious. But you know what I was thinking though, after you showed that and you were talking about the food, I mean, their food can definitely raise some romantic tension. Especially like a little ice cream or whatever, like a little cake, like a little bite with sharing food. And I think that oh gosh, y'all see, this is too late for me. Like I think one thing and then okay. Anything
So I wanted
else?
to say, I wanted to say that raising romantic tension, if one person feels like all is lost, and there's a switch in the direction the story is going, and they're at that moment where they don't know if things are going to work out, I feel like that could be really like romantically tense. So I feel like when things just shift a little bit in the story, like that can be an opportunity to raise the romantic tension.
That's a good point. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think in our short stories, it's like you have to kind of come into it with the plan to like have that conflict kind of be part of the romantic tension. So it's so fast. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm reading the comments. I can't do two things at one time. I like that Sharon's mentioning Pride and Prejudice. I'm sorry, I get distracted by Jane Austen easily. Oh, there it is. Woo, especially the scene after Elizabeth rejects Mr. Darcy's proposal. And he looks at her lips. He does.
There you go. Yep, sure does.
Yeah. That's good. Okay, I have one more thing that I've seen this in some, I think actually it's been some writers and reader groups, but what do you think about, since we kind of talked about, even you read your scene, people asking for permission to kiss?
Okay. Contemporary rom-com, it's hard to make that believable. Unless, I mean, not asking permission so much as, but you can definitely get away with I'm going to kiss you now.
Yes. Yeah.
And giving them a chance to stop you. That's one thing. But is it all right if I kiss you? That's hard to sell. I'm not saying it can't be done, but it's hard in contemporary. I mean, I would definitely say historical, maybe a different ballgame. I don't know.
I feel like it's hard to sell in everything. I mean, it's a stop, it's a pause. And in those scenes, you don't want those pauses. Now, if you have some guy like pawing all over you and the woman's like, no, I don't want to do this. And he keeps, obviously that's, not going to fly.
Right.
But you can tell when someone wants to kiss you. Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure there was some flirtation going on. Like, it's not like this guy, right? I don't remember Bethany, their names, but like out of nowhere, like they hate each other. And he's like, I'm going to kiss her and change her mind. All right. I mean, I haven't read your book. Maybe that is how it is. But, like, there has to be some underlying sexual tension, romantic tension, some flirtation. Like, you can tell when someone wants to kiss you back, so.
Yeah. I agree.
Definitely.
I'm not a big fan of the asking permission.
Well, and I think that but I think you give all, like, your characters, especially if you're writing it. Now, in real life, that's a whole different whatever. But when you're writing characters, that you get to say what they're thinking. You get to say, like, oh, and then he looked at her lips. I mean, obviously, she sees him looking at her lips. I mean, this is she's blind. Well, maybe if she's blind, I guess that there could be a whole other issue. But as you're writing it, you have the freedom to be sure that everybody has that.
Right.
That could be really sexy. People like. Janine wrote on the almost kiss, the fight almost kiss. Like, and I think when you have the enemies to lovers situation, you get some of that, kind of like that's what you read to us, to that, like, okay, like, we're arguing, but I mean, it's time to like stop this argument. This is how we're gonna kiss and make up.
Right. Well, yeah. And I mean, as far as building the romantic tension without the kiss, it's like most of the first half of the book was romantic tension in the form of fighting. And honestly, love and hate, there is a very thin line as far as the emotions involved in that. And so if you can use that, and I mean, passion is passion. It's just, what is that passion demonstrating? And so, yeah, enemies, like the fight thing, you have to lay the groundwork well so that it's not, like you were saying, Kim, horrible from nowhere and this guy has no right to kiss her kind of thing. But if the groundwork has been laid, that can work really well.
Yeah. I was thinking about competitors. Like, I'm really thinking we're going to do a board games edition issue soon. But I think competitors are fun because they're not really fighting, but that's where they're competing. They're competing, and then and like I said, your book, actually, that probably is the same. That they're the best chefs or whatever. So yeah. And Kim and your And Mosaic of Wings, they're competing, your people.
Yes.
Mosaic,
yeah, they are. It's definitely an enemies to lovers sort of situation.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of like that, not I want to say fighting, but just kind of competition and snarky sort of sarcasm and back and forth. But there's a definite chemistry between them. And, you know, as they grow into friendship, it's a perfect time for a kiss. I mean, most moments are. Missy said, return to me. Bob asked, can I hold your hand? And I think that's super sweet. And that can be well done. I think that probably, I can't remember the movie. I don't know. I don't even know if I've seen it. But I feel like that probably.
Leslie and I are both like outraged. What?
Maybe, I don't know. The minute I watch a movie, like 6 seconds later, it's out of my head. I'm assuming that kind of goes with his character. You know,
well,
like
he's a widower, and he hasn't dated since he was dating his wife in high school. So yes, it totally works in that situation.
Yeah, and that's super sweet and romantic, and I think that works. But
well, that actually raises the romantic tension. That what he said, that actually really, it's sweet and all, but it also makes you go, oh, and then you're like, oh, and then if it wasn't, I feel like in that scene, even though it's a movie, it's kind of his POV. But if it was in her POV, what is she thinking? Oh my gosh! I mean, I would love to rewrite that in her POV. Like, what is she thinking when he says that? Like, her heart has to be melting all over the place. I mean,
yep.
And Sharon said, every woman knows how to stop a kiss, and most do when it's not something they want. So yeah. Women know how to stop a kiss. I've stopped a lot. In the 21 years I've been married.
Just run.
Not now, dishes.
Yeah, dishes. Coffee breath, no. Okay, well, we were reaching the end of our time, so I just wanted to real quick say again that I just wanted to talk about y'all's books really quickly because they are coming out, and our next issue. So everybody, remember that our next issue is inspired by song, and we might do another video before then about that. Remember, inspired is the kind of the word, not replayed.
Not replaying the song.
Yes, totally. And I would highly recommend, or not highly recommend, but I could suggest that you even can find 2 songs that kind of lend themselves to each other, and this like inspires this whole moment. Because remember, we're talking about moments in flash fiction. So that's it's funny. I've done that before, and I didn't even really realize it. But it was a newer song out, and there was an older song, and I was kind of going to do this whole story with this older song, and then I heard that other song, and I was like, oh, but that's kind of fun too. So, and it was a little long for flash fiction, but whatever.
And also, you know, just thinking outside the box, like I feel like everyone's going to go with country or rock. Like think like Anya or Bollywood, like something super exciting. Like I would love to see that.
Or even classical.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Especially like even if it was a song that doesn't have lyrics. I mean, they still evoke emotion. Or a song in a different language. My daughter sings classical, and so she's always singing in like Italian, and I can't understand anything she's saying, but I'm like moved. So, so there's that. Okay, and so just as a reminder, Bethany's book is coming out June 14th. It's called Plot Twist. So that's very exciting. And so y'all be sure to go get that. And if you haven't got Hadley Beckett's Next Dish, you can get that. And Bethany, I know your other book titles, but I can't even remember my own name or what POV means right now. So you want to show them?
We've got The Secret Life of Sarah Hollenbeck and Wooing Katie McCaffrey. So.
Yes, so it's great books. I've read them both. So.
Thank you.
And Kim's, just last Tuesday, we were actually on here, or Kim was on here. I was watching too while I was eating dinner. But she launched, her book came out last Tuesday, A Tapestry of Light. And then her first book, Mosaic of Wings, is also available. So, so y'all check those out. And
Skyboat.
Janine Bjork.
Janine.
Yes, definitely Weird
Great
Al.
Idea.
Yes. I love
Crystal, I want to see Weird Al.
Yes, that will be fun. I mean, I know we're serious sometimes in our stories, but I love a little fun. So So don't be afraid to be a little fun, have a little fun, and especially with kissing, have a little fun. It can be really interesting that way. So, do y'all have any last tips to give our viewers? Does anybody have last questions? Because we're getting ready to sign off. Okay. Sometimes I get the feeling you don't love me anymore. Janine and Chris. Now Janine and Crystal are having their own conversation. Okay. I did want to remind everybody that this will be up on YouTube. So if you have friends who have not seen it and need more tips, then be sure to send them to YouTube to watch this video. And we all are so glad that y'all were here with us tonight. And we look forward to reading some great stories in the future. So good night.
Thanks for joining us. Good night.